Hello, for those of you who just joined us. We are going to get started in just a few minutes, but we appreciate your joining a little in advance to make sure you're online and ready to go. Thanks to those who've just joined. We're going to get started shortly, but we appreciate your making sure that you're online and ready to go. We're excited to have you all with us today. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in just another minute. We have a number of people with us today. We're excited. We have a great presentation for you, but we do want to let the other people who are joining us get a chance to log on, and then we will kick it off in just another minute. Thanks so much. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started since we have a lot of content to cover today. Next slide, Mary. Welcome, everyone, to today's New York Women in Business webinar, Goal Achievement in Uncertain Times. Next. I'm Kendra Anderson. I'm the SCORE Program Coordinator. Next. So a few ground rules for today's session. Your microphones are on mute, so just be aware of that. We encourage you to interact with us via the chat window during the presentations today. Please open your window to a full screen for the optimal experience. We will have Q&A at the end of the keynote presentation, as well as the end of the panel discussions. So we look forward to engaging with you then. The session is being recorded, and all registered attendees will receive a link to the recording. Next. So this just shows you the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. Click that, it'll open the chat window and you can engage with us. Next. So let me tell you a little bit about SCORE New York City. SCORE is a nonprofit resource partner of the Small Business Organization. We're a nationwide organization, and here at the SCORE New York City chapter, we have over 70 highly experienced mentors with a wide range of backgrounds, including sales, marketing, finance, nonprofits, fashion, all sorts of different backgrounds. We advise over 6,000 small business clients each year. Next, we do that in one-on-one mentoring sessions. Right now, due to COVID, all of our mentoring is being done via video, and all of our mentoring sessions are free. So we encourage you to meet with one of our mentors to discuss the challenges that you're facing, and so that we can help guide you as you navigate navigate your business and the challenge that we're facing. Next, with that, I'll turn things over to Mary Tan.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. And as Kendra said, welcome to our Achieving Goals in Uncertain Times conference. We're very excited about the topic for this one. And and that's how we said, in the event page, oh my God, not another goal setting workshop. This is not your ordinary conference. I was reading and I was reading something the other day, and I found this wonderful quote by a Greek philosopher called Heraclitus, who lived 2,500 years ago. And he was Turkish, by the way. What he said is that change is the essence of life. And we've certainly seen that true. What happened last year, and we certainly don't have a lot of certainty about what's going ahead. So we put a program together today that's going to help you navigate the waters, because Maya will explain that in greater detail. But a lot has to do with mindset and systems and tools, and we're going to try and help you develop and get access to all of that. So a few words about NYWIB for those of you who don't know us. New York Women in Business was founded 4 years ago, and its sole purpose was to help women entrepreneurs. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that men aren't welcome. It's just that we realized that we wanted to put additional resources for women to help them succeed. It's an alliance. We're 8 organizations, and all of them are women's professional organizations, and includes local chapters and national organizations and nonprofits. And in a way, we're a team of rivals because we all offer similar things, but we felt by being together, we put more resources in front of you so you can make the choice as to where you want to go for the help that you need. The main purpose for New York Women in Business, as we said, is powering ideas together. Our primary mission is education. And today's conference is an example of that, because we try to pick topics that are relevant to you, and we try to put it together in a way that's not like what you see everywhere, to make it slightly different. And we try to make it as relevant and useful as possible. We also offer networking and resources. So what I mean by resources, I want to point to a couple that's unique to New York Women in Business. For those of you who don't already know, NYWIB.org, which is our website, has a terrific business directory. And right now we have over 500 listings. And these are listings of all women-owned businesses. Now, anyone with a business that's at least a year can create a profile, list their business. And you'd actually have to be a woman to list your business, but you can be a man to create a profile and take advantage of our directory, because these are almost uh, 550 terrific businesses that you really want to know about. And the newest feature that we're now offering is for those of you who've listed your businesses, you have an opportunity to promote your business on the homepage of NYWIB.org. And you can either have your business featured or, or promote a special offer. And you can book these promotions 1 week at a time for as long as you want. I was delighted to find out the other day, and this is new news to my other partners, is that one of our businesses signed up for the entire year, which is, no, I'm sorry, for 6 months, which was a big surprise and a thrill to us. I also want to tell you about the business library. It's got resources for all of you who are either starting a business or looking to finance your business, whether you're nonprofit or for profit. Go check us out, because on this section, which is New York Small Business Support, you can find very, very helpful links to government, organizations and resources. Things like, what license do I need? Or things like, how do I sign up for MWBE? So information and links to that are all there. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to my partner, Florencia Giordano, who's the program manager for WE NYC. Florencia?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary. And thanks everyone for joining us today. As Mary said, we have a very exciting event planned for you. And I see people in the chat are already talking about our keynote, Maya Caridad. And I'm excited to hear her too. So I will try to keep my introduction as short as possible. But still, I want to share with you some programs that we offer, because I think they are truly helpful. So my name is Florencia and I work with WE NYC. For those who do not yet know us, WE NYC is the official New York City initiative to support and empower women entrepreneurs. As far as we know, it's the only initiative in the US and the world that is this comprehensive. So next slide, please. We have 11 different programs that we run. Sorry, next slide again. And they're all at no cost and open to the public. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on every one of them, but I just want to mention that we have group mentor sessions with an amazing group of cohort of mentors, including Maya, who is one of them. We have events with different speakers, networking opportunities. We have our portal, which similarly to the NYWIB website, it offers a lot of resources for women entrepreneurs. And it is where you can sign up for any of our programs. So everything is at we.nyc, which is really easy to remember. Another thing that we offer is we master workshops, which range from credit building, leadership skills, money management skills, which are very important. And one thing that I wanted to mention at the moment, since it's something that is very pertinent to what we are facing right now, is our consultations. We are offering a special version of this service, which will help you access COVID-19 emergency relief funding. So as you probably know, the second round of PPP funding has begun, and therefore there are more funds out there for those who need them. So in order to apply for the second round of PPP, you can either be a first-time applicant, or you can apply if you have received the first round of PPP and you will use or have used that money, the full amount already, for the authorized purposes. I'm not going to go into much detail about this because it's rather complicated. So both WE NYC and SBS are hosting informational workshops every week. I encourage you to apply for those, and also to the one-on-one consultations, which you can find at we.nyc. So next slide. The other programs that I want to very briefly mention are We Fund, which offers, is the way that the city invests in women entrepreneurs. So we have 4 different funding programs for you. And We Legal, which is the one-on-one legal consultations with the top 10 firms in New York. So as I said, all of these are free, they're at no cost, they're open to the public, and they are all on our website at we.nyc. So next slide. Today's agenda is pretty great. We have Maya Haridat, who is back by popular demand. She's the founder and CEO of New Designs for Life and a highly demanded business coach and NYC mentor. Maya will speak about resilience, how to build it into your lives and businesses, what it takes to succeed in the world, and how to set up your goals for the future, especially right now where everything is quite uncertain. Afterwards, we will have a very candid conversation with Alexandra Daras, the owner and founder of the Pretty Pink Rooster, Caroline Petersen, the founder and creative director at Gallery Design Studio, and Dominique Padurano, the founder of Crimson and Coaching. And I apologize if I missaid the names. The conversation will be moderated by Sue Shapiro, who's a mentor and with SCORE. And they will talk about what they learned in 2020 and how they embedded this into their strategies for 2021. So next slide. So without further ado, I now have the pleasure to introduce you to Maya. Maya, as I said, is one of our NYC mentors. I think she's part of the original cohort of mentors. So in terms, she's one of our oldest mentors in terms of time with us, not necessarily age, but she is super in demand. She's an entrepreneurship coach, a strategist, as well as the founder, as I said, of New Designs for Life and of Mom and Daughters Inc. She is a trainer for youth business builder programs. She's a nationally recognized expert in the specialized field of entrepreneurship education and has trained over 5,000 students. So welcome, Maya. We are so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you all so much. I am so excited to be here today. Florencia, thank you so much. And give me one quick second. And of course, I don't know where my camera went down. Give me 1 second. Okay.
No problem. I see a lot of people in the chat are very excited.
All right, there we go.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Florencia. I so appreciate these moments when we NYC, the worlds overlap, and then the partners like NYWIB, what we're going to do today, and all the conversations that we're going to have. Everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited for you to be here in today's session. Today's session is going to be game changing. We are going to talk about a topic today that has been on everyone's minds about how to set goals, and we're going to do it in the context of what we're dealing with right now in 2021. And listen, I just want to be real with you for a minute. I've had a number of successes in my business that I'm super proud of, but the ones that make me the most proud are when I am wearing the hats, the roles that I wear. How many of you, for example, have roles like where you're a mother or you're a spouse or a partner, or you're juggling your business and involved in the community? If you're involved in those roles, please put those in the chat, because I am here for you. I am with you. I understand. And the insights, the ideas, the conversations we're going to go over today take all of you into consideration to be able to dive into this very big topic about goals, achieving the key to your goals in your business, and making things happen. Now, real quick though, before we get started, I have to double check. I heard that tomorrow there are going to be some amazing speakers that are going to be in the house for this 2-day conference. And I want to see in the chat right now, everyone to type in yes that has already gone ahead and registered for tomorrow. Because I'm going to let you in on a little secret, everyone. The folks who are coming tomorrow, as well as the panel today and what you'll hear from me, normally you would probably spend, to be honest, thousands of dollars to hear these women entrepreneur speakers in a conference that is this high-end conference. You're spending thousands to be there for in order to hear them. As a matter of fact, one of the speakers I actually did speak with at one of these types of conferences, so I know what I'm saying. So here's the thing. In case you were wondering today, NYWIB is so invested in each and every single one of you that they put this very intentional event on that's going to kick off with me right now, sharing with you some of the inspiration and ideas and the keys on how to achieve your goals. And then you're going to walk through this very well put together conference that's going to have your business on fire. Okay. So don't just show up for my session today. I mean, I love all of y'all. Just, you know, I love every single person, even though I can't see you. Don't just show up for this session today and not take advantage of the sessions tomorrow, because what happened is those of you that do, when we get to the end of December, you are going to look back on your businesses and think, oh my goodness gracious, how did I make that happen? All right. So let's make sure that at the end of this event, Y'all smile real nice in NYWIB and make sure that you can get in for tomorrow's session, because I know when you take what we're going to cover today and you put that together with the sessions going on tomorrow, your business is going to be achieving major goals by the time December 31st happens. All right. So put in the chat for me a yes if that is something that interests you, if that's something you're here for, that's something you want to see, because I am all about being able to see that and make that happen. So our session, our time today, discovering the keys to achieving your goals. This, when you really dive into this conversation, it's so empowering. It's just, I'm looking forward to just diving in and giving you these insights of how I've gotten success within my business, how I've been able to achieve goals, wearing all the hats that I wear, and give you an insider's look on how to be able to do it. And so here's what I want you to take away. I want you to leave here today living your life on the why and not the what. And I'm going to say it again. I want you living your life on the why and not the what. Because far too often, what we're doing is we're doing what we're supposed to do, but we don't know why we're supposed to do it. And when you're done here today, my friends, I promise you, you're going to know what to do because of your why. You're going to get fueled by your work in a way that you never thought was possible before. You're not going to be drained. You're totally going to be energized. And I am here for all of you to be able to make that happen today. So for any of you that are under the sound of my voice right now, that are like, Maya, I want that. Just start telling us, give it to us, right? I want you to type into the chat, let's go. Let's blow this chat up and let folks know women entrepreneurs are not here to play games. We are making moves. We are making things happen. So I want you to go ahead and blow up the chat right now and type in let's go. You could type in Lego because you're not really quite sure how to spell let's go. And I have no judgment because that might be me sometimes. You could type in LG, whatever it is that you need to see, please go for it and type it in. I want you guys to be on fire about this. Okay. So quick note to Florencia, just as a quick aside, I can't see the chat right now, but I'm just going to keep rolling with it. So just flag me in case I need something. All right. So if you're here for this, and if you know that this is what you came here for today, and that this is what you are about, then we're going to do step number 2, and I'm going to have you start introducing yourself. And I saw folks already in the chat introducing themselves, and I love this. I am so excited to see that. And I want to encourage each and every single one of you right now, share your name. Share your business, share your social media handles, right? The beauty of conferences right now, we're all virtual. So there's no reason now that we can't meet somebody across boroughs that normally would have taken us 3 hours to be able to connect on some days, right? You can meet anyone from anywhere right now. And I highly encourage you, you think about the community of all the organizations that NYWIB connected to make this conversation happen. You want to meet each and every single person that's in attendance today. So do me a favor, go ahead, type in your contact. And then after the panel today with Sue and her guests, I want you to offline these conversations and start having virtual coffee chats. So please go ahead and type into the chat and feel free to share your info, and I'll give you a minute to do that. All right, awesome. I'm able to pick the chat up again. I love it. And you are not shy in here. That's what I'm talking about. Let's do this. Let's make this happen. I absolutely love it. As I go on, if you finally catch up and you want to put your info in, please bring it on. That's perfectly fine. I'm looking forward to it and ready for you to be able to see it. All right. So let's dive into the conversation, right? Typically, when we're talking about goals, one of the things that we usually see when the conversation about goals comes up is the success side of goals, right? You hear the story of the entrepreneur that took $500 and made a $100 million company, right? Am I the only one that hears those stories? And the media is highlighting them, and they're in the news all the time, and they're at the events, right? And you're seeing them on a regular basis. I absolutely, absolutely love that we see these stories and that we see people winning, right? I love that, Jasmine. Yes, that will be your story one day. Bring it, right? And so we need these stories because we need to be inspired about what's possible. I'm literally getting inspired when I'm seeing all of you post right now your businesses in the chat. I think it's tremendous to see the diversity of businesses that are in here, the ideas you have, the connections, and you guys took it seriously, by the way. You're sharing contact information, which I am here for. I am so excited about seeing that happen right now. All right, keep doing that. But can we have a real conversation for a minute? Can I get a yes in the chat if we can have a real conversation for a minute? Can anyone relate to this when it comes to goals? The hard part about goals, right? I mean, I saw this little baby and I was like, oh my goodness, she has my heart 1,000%. This is the hard part where it's like, I'm working on my goals, I'm going to make things happen, and they are just not happening. What am I doing wrong? Where am I running into mistakes? What's the deal? What's happening? Let me tell you a story about this. Last year, this is just an example though, but I know because I hear it all the time. And when I'm in workshops and when I'm in sessions, that this is how it looks a lot of times, right? Last year, one of my mentors shared with me that she plots out a number of days each month that she spends just on planning. Right? So she has about 4 or 5 days each month. She takes no meetings. She takes no phone calls. Like, she is just head down, planning, writing her content, working on her strategy and thinking through what's next. And when I first heard that goal, you guys, I was like, that's mine. I want that. I can't even imagine what I'd create in my business if I took time out to really be intentional about how I'm going to go after and create my goals, right? So she spent about 4 days doing it each month, but I was, ambitious. I wanted to try to figure out how to do it, twice a week, right? Do Mondays and Fridays. Well, listen, the first couple of weeks, it was fine. I was perfectly capable of keeping up with that because I was so motivated and so on fire by it. But by the third and the fourth week, you know what happened. One client reaches out and needs help with something. Another client, has to have this meeting on one of those particular days, right? Another client says, oh, what about if we do? And you're like, okay, I'll give up the time. I will. And what winds up happening, right? You feel defeated. You feel like this little girl here because you said you were going to go after your goals. And, I love it. Hope I'm going to pronounce it right. Nelenia says we need to have consistent discipline. We do. But the reality is that goals are hard. And executing on those goals, I think sometimes are even harder because how do you balance everything that you're doing and keep up with them? So here's what we're going to take a minute to do. As a group, we're going to take a minute to write down a few of the goals right now that have been challenging you, right? Let's keep it real. Let's not just sit in that space of like, I can do this. I can make this happen. I'm just going to have the willpower to do it. Take a moment, take the shoes off, pull the makeup down, throw the hair up in a ponytail. That's what I do, right? And just be honest with yourself. Write down some of the goals you have for your business that have been hard, you've been frustrated with, that just haven't come to pass the way you want. And I want to be crystal clear, my friends. I'm not saying that we're complaining about what these things are. That's not what this is at all. This is just an opportunity to acknowledge it is hard. It's going to take work. And especially when I think of all the factors that we're dealing with right now with our economy, with our country, with healthcare, with everything that's going on, right? It's a lot. And we don't know what curveballs are coming. We don't know. To be frank with you, part of the reason I couldn't keep up with the fact of being able to set aside those days like that, y'all, it was remote learning. Remote learning took me out. I'm just going to be honest and hold my hand up and just say that that's what happened. And that's why I wasn't able to achieve that particular goal. But it's all good because I had a number of major successes in my business last year, even with not being able to do it. So take a minute. I'm going to give you about a minute here to actually write down some of those goals that you find hard. You don't have to share them with anyone, but just to have a moment to be honest with ourselves. Because let me tell you what happens when we're not honest. When you're not honest with yourself about it, this is going to sneak up on you. And so I find, for example, for myself, maybe I'm the only one. Let me know if I'm the only one or if you can relate to this, right? I'll find myself cleaning like crazy, right? All of a sudden the laundry got to get done. I have to get piles of laundry set up so that they're organized and everything looks perfect and it's beautiful, right? Or I'm sweeping every floor and vacuuming everything. Yeah, you know why? Because I didn't take time to do this. I didn't take time to be honest about what it is. Or another one that shows up very commonly, I hear it all the time with my coaching clients, is I'm just tired. Whoo, I see the list and can anyone relate to that? Type yes in the chat if you can relate. You just get tired. You see the list of everything and you're like, I'm just exhausted. I can't do this. Are you kidding me? And this is the deal. If we don't give ourselves permission to be honest that goals are hard, you understand it's going to be years before you achieve them. Exactly. I love the feedback that I'm getting right now. I'm going to be silent for a minute and just take a moment and write down those goals that you're finding hard. Again, we're not complaining. We're just acknowledging this is what's showing up for us, okay? All right, another few seconds. I love some of you sharing them in here. I bring it on. I appreciate it. And here's what I want you to do with the list. Put the list to the side. If you can, assuming of course you're not driving or something of that nature, put your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath in and deep breath out. Okay? That's our moment to acknowledge that they're hard and to give it space and the ability to say, yeah, it does show up. Now, on the other side, though, I want you to see this flower, because what this flower represents is that even though goals are hard, I bet there are goals that have been hard you've achieved, right? Things you've made happen. Think about some of the big ones in your life. Maybe you're the first one in your life, in your family, for example, that's finished college, or the first one in your family to start a business and you're doing it, right? Or doing it on some days, whatever that may look like, right? Like there are goals you've achieved that have been hard. There have been, and you've done it. That's the distinction to take away too, is that while there are ones that are hard, there's ones you've done. And listen, don't always even just think about the big ones, right? The big ones are great, right? Like, the first one to do this and the first one to do that. The small ones that made you proud, they are huge, because the ones that were hard that meant something to you. So I started my first business when I was 17 years old. I had a vending machine business. It's a long story and a very funny story of how a 17-year-old with no one in her family that is an entrepreneur winds up with a set of vending machines. But I did. And listen, guys, I messed up every single thing I could possibly in this business starting it. And what got so hard was that even after I finally figured out how to find locations for all of my machines, is that nobody was buying anything. So I put the machines in all these different locations, and I would go back each week and, 2 Snicker bars are gone, or maybe one, drink is gone. And I'm like, what is this? I'm not going to make any money if people are just buying a couple of things here and there. Like, it's just not going to work. Well, listen, y'all, one day I was in one of the locations, and one of the people that work there reached out to me. He said, hey, miss, I go to the store all the time, and this is what I'm buying. This is what I'm drinking all the time. If your vending machine had this in there, I'd buy it. I'd be happy to be able to purchase it. And I remember looking at the drink and I'm like, my wholesaler doesn't carry that. Like, that's not going to work. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't even know what to charge. Like, but I figured, yeah, what the heck? All right, let's try it. It's worth a shot. The week that I came home, where the machine had been entirely emptied out, and I got to show my mother, yes, one of my machines I sold out. Now, y'all, let me be clear. I probably only had about $15 of profit by the time it was all said and done, if that. So I want to be clear. There were at least 60 cans in the machine, but maybe if I had $10, I was lucky. But I felt so proud of myself, y'all. Like, you couldn't have told me anything. It was a hard goal. It was just like this flower here or weed, depending upon how you want to look at it, where I only had a little bit of dirt, right? A little bit of sunshine, a little bit of rain to like make something happen, but I did it. I did it. So I want you to do this. I want you to go ahead and write down, what are some of the moments in your business, some of the moments in your life you've achieved hard goals. Write them down and own the big ones, own the small ones too. I think it's tremendous. If you want to share some of the small ones in the chat, bring it. I am trying to keep up with the chat and loving all the comments that I'm seeing in there. So go for it. If you want to share some of them with the community, I think that would be amazing. I'll take a minute and let you do that. Yes, yes, with the education, Sarah, do it. I lead, that's what I'm talking about. Jane, do the darn thing. That is huge. Yes, 50 dog trainers, Bonnie. Let me find out. Charmaine, starting online events. I am here for it. So whenever you're in a rut, I want to encourage you to start thinking about those wins. Those wins are crazy and they're powerful. But let's go back to this thing about goals being hard, right? And so you now have these goals that are really hard that you're working on. And you have these goals that are really hard that you figured out. And I keep seeing the answers come in, and bring it. I want to keep seeing the answers come in, right? Because that's how we build and do more. And so the question is, well, what do we do to actually make them happen? And I saw this earlier in the conversation. For a lot of us, we depend upon willpower. We say, you know what, I'm going to roll up my sleeves here. I'm going to get in and be consistent, and I'm going to make this happen. It can work. There've been goals I've achieved, and I sense from the goals that you've listed here that willpower can work, but I want to offer you another way of doing it. I want to share with you a different way to think about it, a different way to consider it, besides willpower, especially with those goals that are really, really hard. So a number of years ago, I sat down at one point and started adding up all of my debt. Student loans, credit cards, the bank, the business loans and things I had dealt with. Anybody ever sat down and looked at their debt? Anyone ever calculated all of that out by chance? Please tell me I'm not the only one that's done that. Awesome to that, Dawn. I hear that. Pay it all off. I'm here for it. And when I initially sat down to do it, I realized this is going to be a big goal I'm going to have to go after because the number was huge, right? And so I tried willpower. I tried that first month. I said, I'm going to budget my money. I'm going to be very conservative on how I do things. I'll give myself a little bit of room here and there, but I'm going to be conservative because I have to get this debt down. It is a goal of mine. I'm tired of carrying it, right? And so I started out like a lot of us do. Simple things like, you know what, this month, it's me and the MTA, me and my Metro car, we BFFs, and I'm not taking any cabs. I'm not taking any extra, trips or things like that. It's just wherever I can get to on the Metro card. And you know exactly what happens. I mean, maybe I'm the only one. I'm game to acknowledge that, right? The minute you make an intention to say this is what you want to do, the universe shows you everything else. So my station, of course, the week that I make this goal, has an announcement that the station will now be closed for the next year for repairs, and that you're going to have to basically take a bus or figure it out, however, to 10 stations down in order to be able to get on the train. Y'all know what happened, right? So this goal of saying, I'm going to get out of debt, I'm going to make mileage with it, I'm going to make this happen, it just seems so impossible. I was sitting down for lunch one day talking with a friend about it, and I shared with her that this was a goal of mine. This is something I wanted to do, and I wasn't getting the willpower. It just wasn't working, and I wasn't sure what to do. And so she told me, well, listen, I met with this holistic financial planner one time, and she gave me this really great advice and these insights. She's a little different, Maya, so you got to work with her, but you can do it if you follow the advice that she gives. And so I was thinking, okay, well, I'm not figuring it out, so it's worth a shot, right? Let me try it. Let me see what happens. So I go in and I meet the financial advisor, and I sit down and we're talking across each other. And the advisor asked me the typical questions, right? What's your debt? What are the interest rates? Who do you owe? What have you tried to do before? And yes, you guys, I'm glad you relate to the idea of the universe, because it always shows up whenever you say you're trying to do something, right? And so I shared with her all of these techniques and things I had tried, and none of them worked. And then she asked me this very profound question. Why does this matter for you right now to eliminate this debt? Why do you need to get rid of it? And I told her, I said, oh, well, because I'm paying too much in interest. And then she leaned in and said, no. Like, why do you really need to get rid of it? And so we went back and forth a little bit, and, I'm trying to give my smart answers and all the stuff I've researched. And when I finally had nothing left, and it's just me and her, I told her, I said, you know what? A lot of my friends right now, they see me in my business. I'm traveling all the time. My work at that time, I had a lot of clients. This is obviously pre-COVID, where I was traveling and speaking in different locations. I was doing a lot of trainings and a lot of workshops in different locations. And people saw the work I was doing as a success. because half the time I was never home. Like, you knew when you called me, all right, Maya, what time zone are you in right now? Because you may not be in Eastern and I need to know, right? And from the outward appearance, my friends, my family, they were like, I want to start a business. If this is what it looks like, you're achieving all your dreams or your goals, I want to do it. And I was like, yes, come, let's do this. But I knew on the inside, honestly, it was a sham, because I had all of this debt that I couldn't figure out how to be able to navigate. I didn't know what to be able to do with it. And I didn't know how to get rid of it. I'd make a little dent and then it'd come back, and make a little dent and come back. And so she asked me after I shared and realized that what it really came down to was, I don't want to be a fraud anymore. I want to be honest and authentic with people so that the true vision of what can happen in a business is really there. It is incredibly heavy, 1,000%. I said, listen, what would be amazing for me is to get to this other side of the debt conversation, where now the money that I'm spending to the creditors, all of that money now goes into me being able to reinvest back in my business, hiring the people that I want to hire, right? Being able to pay them well for what it is that they do, and being able to kind of run the business the way I know it could be run. And she said, exactly, that's it. She handed me a stack of magazines and she told me to take some pictures from these magazines of what not I was dealing with right now, but what that future why that I was headed for, what did that look like? Why did that matter to me? Why was that so important for me? And I'll be 1,000% real. For me, doing this work right now of empowering women entrepreneurs, it's always been there at the heart of my work. And seeing women economically empowered, where you're able to take on the staffs, you're able to build the resources, you're able to build the strategy and the plan. I mean, it's corny, but I started putting up pictures of people that I wanted to see in my world successful, because that I knew would drive me way more than the debt would. And let me tell you the magic of what happened when I started doing that. One night I was sitting down and I was typing out my bills, and it's that painful activity where you see how much you owe, and then you know how much you gonna wind up left with at the end. Anyone ever done that moment where you're like, oh, this feels good. What do I have left? Nothing, right? And a song came on and I said, you know what? I'm not gonna sit here anymore and give the creditors any more of my energy. No. This is about me and my future why. This is about me and what I know is possible. And y'all, I sat there dancing, just as corny as I want to be, craziest dances ever, enjoying paying bills. And you know what happened for me is that activity that normally sucked the life out of me, when I finished, all of a sudden became light, became easier, right? Became more doable to be able to make happen. And I fell in love with, wow. So I just got to be kind of corny about this and just embrace my why. I'm here for that. Let's do this. Let's totally do this, right? I also found it showing up my why in other ways. So a couple of weeks after I met with the planner, I sat down with another friend and started sharing with her, all these ideas of things I wanted to do and why these were important. And I shared with her, I said, you know what? I want to be able to really work on my fitness and work on my health. And she said, that's awesome. That's amazing. Let's do it. And let's do it not because, you want to look good in a bikini, on the beach in the summertime. Like, I mean, that's nice, but, there's more to it. You're doing it because that's going to give you the energy, right? To be able to do this work that you're called here to do. I love it. I am glad you are dancing right now while you're watching. That's exactly what it's supposed to be about, Julian. Exactly. And so I got into that moment. I got fired up. Yeah. I'm going to do it. But she was a smart one. She understood that sometimes you got to be nudged with your why, and you have to build an accountability circle. You have to build people around you that believe that same thing that you do. So one Sunday morning at 8 a.m., there was a knock on my door, and I tried to ignore it, and it wouldn't go away. And I looked at my phone and I'm like, who is knocking on my apartment at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning? And you know who it was. I went over to the peephole and I looked in and I smiled, because it was my accountability angel friend. And I want to share this with you, the power of how accountability works. I had gone 1 week with her, just 1 week, and I didn't text her to say that I had done what I said I wanted to do. And this friend who was willing to stand with me with that why, not just because I'm like, oh, I need to move from a size this to a size that. No, because she saw the bigger picture too. She got on a train on Sunday morning, y'all, from the Upper East Side to go all the way up to the Bronx to ring my doorbell at 8 a.m. to take my behind to the gym. And I had the most fun experience ever working out with her. I don't like working out. I can't stand it. But it was about this why, and it was uplifting, right? So you see here in this picture, this woman, she's talking to her accountability circle. She's sharing with them the goals, the visions, the plans she has, because she wants them to hold her accountable. She wants to say, this is what I want in life, and I need you to back me up, and here's why. So I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to challenge all of you. I want you to take one moment. I want you to text a friend right now who you know is amazing about goals, someone that you know is always on their A game when it comes to being able to handle their goals, right? And I want you to text them and say, listen, I'm going to reach out to you by Friday, and I'm going to share with you a goal that I've achieved. Make sure you touch base with me, all right? So I'm going to give you an entire 2 minutes. Text them, email them, call them. And listen, all of you right now in the chat, you all have done amazing jobs of introducing yourself. Your best accountability buddy might be right here on the chat. Okay, so you don't even have to reach that far, my friend. You can do this easily when you connect with each other on this. But I want to challenge you. I'm going to stop for a minute because I need you to take action on this. I need you to find people that are going to follow up with you on this to make this happen, because that's where your goals happen from, my friends. I see people in the chat that are saying they're looking for an accountability circle or partner. You guys link up with each other, okay? You can direct message each other, or you can message each other, give an @ and put the person's name and just introduce yourself, and let's go make this happen, because that is how you start figuring out how to be able to go after those goals. When you are in that space of why and others believe what you believe, that's where you're going to start seeing the returns happen. So take a moment to do that. Yes, the Coochie Coach, you are very good at accountability. You better watch out now. You might have some people following you after this. Look at that, Dawn. Thank you so much for connecting with Dawnette. I absolutely love it. Caitlin also reached out looking for support. I love the connections. You know, seriously, this is why I love women entrepreneurs, because you put a group of us together in one room at one time, and look at the fire we created. Oh my goodness gracious, this is awesome. Keep this going. Keep this going. Keep this conversation happening, because you're here for the why. You get the why. You get why we're doing it. It's not the technical, detailed what. You get the bigger picture of what we're going after here. And when you do that, going after the day-to-day where it's hard, it becomes so possible. And then I want to leave you with one other insight that I think is important, right? When I sat down and I looked at that initial number of how much I owed in credit cards, it felt like someone had told me, I need you to go and sit down and eat an entire pizza pie. Matter of fact, I think I would have preferred somebody to say, go and eat an entire pizza pie than I would have to deal with the debt that I had at that moment, right? Because it seems so big and so impossible to make happen. But I'm going to tell you what I did. I leaned even deeper into my why on that moment. I did. I figured out that if I tried to do it logically, because y'all, I knew the debt snowball, I knew the debt, pay off the lowest interest first, pay off the highest interest first. I knew all the techniques, but none of them were working. So I did it using the old school mantra, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? You just take one bite at a time. So if I put an entire pizza in front of you, how do you eat an entire pizza? One bite at a time, right? You take a couple of bites here, you take a couple of bites there, and then the goals of eating the pizza starts happening. Sometimes you sit down and eat an entire pizza at one time, and that's amazing and awesome. And sometimes you only take a couple of bites. And listen, I'm going to tell you that this technique, as corny as it may sound and as simple as it may sound, is powerful, because guys, I'm going to tell you, I knocked out $60,000 in debt in 3 years by taking these micro actions, these micro steps. I didn't knock out the debt by paying $20,000 here, 200,000 there, 10,000 there. That's not the way I did it. I did it in $5, $10, $100, $5, $10, $100, $5, $10, $100, and just kept pushing that thing again and again and again. But I have to tell you, to be perfectly honest with you, If I relied strictly on the willpower, I would have never have gotten it done. Never. I was relying on the fact I needed to see my mother smile at me because she knew that what I was earning in the business was going back into the business and making things happen. I needed to show up in front of friends that were like, oh, I think I want to start a business, but I'm really nervous. I don't know if I have enough money. I'd be like, girl, I got you. Let's do this. Let's do this darn thing. And listen, this technique works across the board. I use this very technique in my sales coaching group. This is literally what we do. We take giant sales goals that are like, oh my gosh, this is so huge. How am I going to do it? And we just take bite-sized chunks out of it. What are you going to do this week? That's all you need to do. What are you going to do this week towards that goal to make this happen? Don't worry about, an entire month. And you know what? If you're really stressing, just what are you going to do today? Tell me, what are you going to do today in 20 minutes? So take 1 minute. I know we're getting pretty close to the time frame, but take 1 minute and write down one of the goals you have right now for your business. And exactly, Carmen, give me some bite-sized chunk. Give me a 15 or a 20-minute chunk out of that goal you can take, right? You need to make some sales calls? 2. Make 2. You take a bite-sized chunk. You need to go and do something on your website? Just log in. Make sure that all of the updates are updated and then log back out again. That's a bite-sized chunk, right? Like these steps, when you're taking them on an ongoing basis and a regular basis, that's where the goals get done, my friend. But you will run out of energy if you're doing it on willpower. If you do it based upon your why and what that bigger vision is about what you're going to do, then, like I did, 60K, y'all, 3 years, actually it was less than 3 years when it was all said and done, you'll accomplish it. You can make those dreams happen within your business as well. So I love it. I see Sharon Richter is sharing some of the ideas in here about the 1% rule, 1,000%. Darren Hardy has an amazing book on that about the compound effect. I see that others are talking about, here are the goals that I'm going to do. I'm going to increase sales for my online merch store. I'm going to call 2 presenters. Awesome. Break it down very simply. It's the pizza pie. Matter of fact, I'll go back real quick. You're not eating the whole pie, okay? 1 bite at a time. And another bite at a time, and another bite at the time. And then, then eventually you're going to turn around and watch, bam, and it's done. But don't lean into the what. And I want to leave you with this conversation and this concept. When I first heard it, I thought it was kind of like, well, that's corny, right? I mean, I need all the details and the facts and, what is it that I'm missing? Maybe I need another degree, or maybe I need more information. It's more information. No, it isn't. It isn't. I'll give you an example. You're going to get some crazy powerful information tomorrow at the sessions that are coming. Like the speakers that are coming, I mean, between you and me, I'm going to have to figure out how to cancel one of my calls so I can get in on those sessions tomorrow myself. And you're going to get all of the how-tos and the tactics that you need on the goals. But what's going to happen is the minute a curveball hits you, and hello, 2020 was one giant curveball. We know we still got some more coming our way. So we have to kind of almost know you have to keep your resilient muscle going. If you just rely on getting more content, the what, you're never going to achieve the goal. You just won't. And also, let me just give this quick caveat too. The why, it has to be deeper than money, y'all. For some of us, we are wired where money is what we want. And it's like, okay, that's the goal. But then I would challenge you, what is the money for, right? Like, what does it actually look like once you have the money? What are you doing in your life that's so different than what you're doing now? That's your why. If your why doesn't make you feel vulnerable, uncomfortable, right? I mean, I'll tell y'all, I sat in that woman's office and cried. Cried like a little baby when I realized what my why was. And that if I lean into that there's so much that's going to open up for me. Live your life on the why, not the what. You'll get all the tools and all the tactics and all the info you need. This group right here is a perfect example of it. You will come together and connect and figure out the what. But if you're not living your life on the why, that's your responsibility. You've messed up. And then it just leaves you so much more room when you're on the why to be able to do what you know you came here in your business to do. So I thank you all so much tremendously for this amazing conversation. I just love everyone, what you were all sharing in the chat and talking to me and sharing and things like that. Kendra, do I have time? I know I may have gone over, but I just want to make sure, do I have time for a question? I am totally happy.
Yes, you do have time for questions. So if you have a question, submit it via the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom window.
Awesome, awesome.
Love to see the chat. Love to see everybody engaging with the content. So many great suggestions that you shared with us and so many great stories.
I appreciate it, Kendra. Thank you. You know what got me excited, Kendra, is seeing the community that happened virtually. That was amazing to see people looking out and sharing with each other and finding ways to connect. That part alone, that part sets me on fire right now. That means 2021, we're in a good place. I love it.
Absolutely. What is your best advice for raising capital as a startup with low resources?
Sure. So now you're gonna get me whip out my We NYC hat, and I'm here for it. I think the best advice I have for raising capital is your key factor is you have to prove your concept works. And so here's what's interesting. If you are invested in your why and you know why you're doing this work, you will figure out why others will also pay money for it, and you will prove that the concept works. The minute you can prove that people will buy it and you have a long wait list, you can get the money that you need in terms of being able to fundraise and move forward.
Thanks. Jasmine's biggest issue is in organization while juggling multiple priorities. What's your best advice for that?
Totally, Jasmine. That's a big one, and I can totally relate with that one. I think the key one that I often look at is each day I take an A1 priority on my list. So something that might not necessarily show up right here, right now, but that if I do this long-term work, is going to have a major impact. So for a lot of us, we want to go to the cleaners, cook the food, all this other stuff. No. Find a way to start outsourcing some of the family chores. I'm a big believer in that for women. Just don't try to do it all, and spend your time on the planning and the strategy, because it's probably what's missing and where you're not being able to get the traction you want.
Thanks. We've got a number of questions. Yes, the webinar is being recorded.
Awesome.
The recording as well as the slides will be shared with you. Bonnie asks, how do we reconcile charging what we're worth during this pandemic time when we know folks don't have that much money?
Excellent, excellent question. First, I think you have to get clear within your own business of what your rates are. So for a lot of us, sitting down and getting really honest of how much it takes to run the business, what our burn rate is. In other words, how much money do you need to have in the bank before you are at zero, and just get very honest with your finances. Once you've done that, I think then you have the opportunity to kind of work with people from there. So if you have a service-based business, sometimes in a product you can do this as well, but it works easier, I think, in a service-based business. You can work with customers to share with them, look, my rate is normally $100 an hour. I'm just making a rate up in this example. I'm willing to work with you at the 75 an hour, and also know your rate you're not going to go below, but also I'm not going to be able to do all of the things I would have done at 100. So you kind of meet people some way here in the middle, but first you got to know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, do not start negotiating, because you may be shooting yourself in the foot.
Marjorie asks, how do you break things into small bits if you have trouble doing it?
Yes, it's a huge one. Two things, I surround myself with entrepreneurs who are very goal oriented. And when you change your network and when you change the people who are around you and who you're working with, you're going to start to find it easier to find ways to solve some of those things that you're running into. And the second one that I recommend, and you saw several examples of it, is really invest in mentoring and coaching. Because those areas of your business, you deserve to figure out how to work through them. And there's probably someone that can teach you something very custom that works for you in like 20 minutes that'll take you years to figure out. So just invest in that as a resource for your business.
Thanks. We've had a number of questions about this too. To get a business mentor, go to newyorkcity.score.org, and we have mentors just waiting to share their knowledge with you.
Right. And then also I have to give a big shout out, not only for SCORE, but also for We NYC. So
yes.
you've got options. The city is also coming out with some new mentoring programs that are very affinity focused. And I highly recommend you looking out for those. And so in my mind, this time has never existed before, guys, with the mentors resources that are available. So really do the work, but lean into that.
Absolutely. Great resources from SCORE as well as We NYC. Charisse asks, what are some best practices for mapping out our goals and our next steps?
Sure. I think there's two parts to it. First, I would actually sit down and look at everything it is that you have to do. And then the big one, taking it from the female perspective. What is it that you have to do that is going to move your business forward? For a lot of us, we're trying to do everything, and you can't. That's not what you're supposed to do. But if you actually sit down and get very honest with it, and if you need, if you need a mentor, if you need someone to work with you to figure this out, just ask for the help. But I think if you get the help to know, here's where I need to invest my energy, go back to that conversation about why you're doing it, you can get through some of those hard goals, and then you just got to be okay. You won't get them all, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
We're going to do one last question from Dana. Do you have any business tips for easy planning?
So folks that have worked with me don't like the way I do business planning, but it works every time. The way you start out with business planning is you start out by breaking everything. Basically, you figure out what is the product or service that when things are good, when things are bad, when times are great, everyone has to have this particular thing. And what happens usually is that means you're going to have to whittle down a lot of the things that you're offering that don't work. But when you focus in on that one product or service, or just narrowing it down into a very specific area, it gives you a much easier ability than to sit down and work through the numbers of what your business is going to look like, and also think about the marketing. So do broad first, narrow it down, and it's okay. And then it's an easier plan to be able to work on, because you have so many examples and so much evidence of really what the numbers are in most cases.
Thank you. With that, we're going to wrap up our keynote presentation. Thank you, Mala.
My pleasure.
And we're going to transition to our next section of our presentation, which is a panel with Sue Shapiro. Hi, Sue.
Hi there, Kendra and everybody. Welcome to the panel. I just enjoyed hearing what Maya had to say, and I think all of us can benefit from it. I'm Sue Shapiro, a certified SCORE mentor, and let me just add one part to what she said, and that is, if you haven't decided what one bite you're going to take yet, why don't you contact New York's the SCORE office and get a mentor? We're all volunteers, it's all free, and our only job is to help you achieve your goals. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to our panel. Can we bring them up, Kendra? Okay, we have
Yes,
Alexandra.
unmuting themselves and bringing their video online.
Okay. We've got Alexandra, who's from the Pretty Pink Rooster, Dominique from Crimson Coaching, and Caroline from Design Gallery Studio. We did have a fourth lady. Her name was Pooja from the ice cream company. Unfortunately, we who have businesses know that if an employee doesn't show up or get sick, it's we who run the business who take over. So that's what Pooja is doing now, but she apologizes and she wishes that she could be here today, but if you come into her ice cream shop, she'll personally say hello to you. So let's start with Alexandra. Each of these people have done amazing jobs. In January 2020, their business was doing well, but then came the rest of 2020 and the enormous challenges. They're going to tell us what they did, not only just to survive, but to achieve the goals, which was running a successful business despite a pandemic. So Alexandra, why don't you start and introduce yourself and tell us about the Pretty Pink Rooster?
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me as a panelist. I'm really excited about being here. And my business is called the Pretty Pink Rooster. We are a jewelry and accessory business online and in store. I also focus on personal shopping for my customers and really giving women the opportunity to look and feel great without the hefty price tag.
That's very concise. Terrific. Dominique.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me. And I loved Maya's keynote speech. Thanks for that, Maya. So Crimson Coaching is a test prep, academic tutoring, and college consulting service. I do 98% of the work myself. I'm a solopreneur. And, I have to say, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more later, You know, my business was doing fine in early 2020, but it actually sort of skyrocketed in July of 2020. So I actually had my best year in business last year. So I think even in the midst of chaos, there is hope.
Great. And Caroline, tell us about, when you started your business and what your business does.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me here today. And Maya, I absolutely loved your presentation. My name is Caroline, founder and creative director of Gallery Design Studio. I founded the business over 6 years ago. We specialize in B2B creative design. So what we do is videos and webinars, all of these sorts of things for B2B tech companies.
Great. So you can see all three of them have firmly established business in January of 2020. So let's go to the part that's not so good. What happened in March and April and May? How did your business change? Then we'll talk about how you changed it, but let's talk about what changed in March and April of 2020. Alexandra?
So that was definitely the craziest time and the start of the craziest time for my business and everybody's business and everyone's lives. I was growing. I was on a really great pattern for growth virtually and in store. And then COVID hit. So March the 16th, I decided to close my business before the government mandate in New Jersey started. My mother works for me, my sister works for me. And I said, oh, you know what? Let's just close for 2 weeks, see what happens. Like we all thought the same thing, and I pivoted within 24 hours back to my roots of being solo online. So I have that brick and mortar store location where my clients would be in and out daily. And then we just kind of screeched to a halt and moved back to operating solely online, working my social media platforms to facilitate sales and continue on virtually with that virtual styling, virtual shopping experience for my customers to be able to still utilize our services. So that's really what happened during the start of COVID for me. And I was closed for 3 full months. We were closed from March the 16th through June, the 15th, we were allowed to open up again.
And Alexandra, during that time, what percentage of your business do you feel was lost until you ramped up?
That definitely is a great question. Sales were down significantly as everybody, and, it was, probably 25% of my sales were down until I really started averaging and pushing forward and moving forward with delivery and just being on that social presence. Every day at 10:30, I have a virtual show that I do. It's called Pretty Pink Rooster TV, and I'm live on my Facebook channels. And then at 10:40 to 10:50, I'm on my Instagram channels. So I really tapped in and utilized that to kind of amp up and start my business again virtually.
Then we're going to get to that because I'd like to hear more about what you're doing. But
Right.
the thing is, I just like to paint a picture of what it was like when COVID hit and your business was overnight changed. Our life was changed overnight. Everything we did was changed overnight.
Absolutely.
And for many people, the percentage of business they had went down drastically.
Mhm.
And so that's what's nice to hear, that changes were made. Oh, okay, so Dominique, how about you? Financially, what did your business look like in March and April? We'll get to what you did later.
It was bad. It was really bad. For me, I had sort of a perfect storm. The pandemic coincided also with the end cycle that a lot of my students were on. The SAT was supposed to take place on March 14th. So I had been working with a lot of students who were naturally going to end their coaching with me because the SAT was going to take place. Now, some of them may have re-upped sort of to take also the May SAT, but for me, given the fact that in the spring, a large percentage of my business comes from test prep, and all of the SATs and ACTs were canceled, it really meant, I mean, I think March and April, it was down like 80%. So it was, I mean, crickets, silence in March, April. Things started to pick up a teeny bit because I also think parents got really scared. Nobody knew, will I lose my job? Will I have the money for tutoring? You know, so there was, I thought almost there was this tightening of the purse strings. May, June, it loosened up a little, and then as I mentioned, July got a lot better, and we'll talk about what I did in those cricket period later, I guess.
Exactly. No, I think it's important to paint a picture because I don't think that the three of you were unique. I think probably anybody in the audience who has a business probably experienced very much what you did. How about you, Carolyn? What happened after in March and April?
Well, funnily enough, March and April were not that bad. We were on a high, like the rest of the panelists, but it actually took a few months for us to really realize, okay, COVID is here. I think the main reason being is we work on a monthly model. So a lot of our clients were just going with the flow, and then suddenly it was like, okay, is marketing even important for my business? Is this going to move the needle? Obviously, my answer to them is yes. But a lot of folks didn't think so, and they just wanted to allocate resources in other things, especially because we work in tech. They wanted to put a lot of money in product, in the sales team, but minimize the marketing efforts.
At what point would you say, what percentage of business that did you lose, or what percentage of business that normally came in at some point during the year didn't you get?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's hard to pinpoint exactly the number, but I would say around 25%. The good thing, however, is the businesses that we did lose or politely invite to go, because we also did do that, were the businesses that were not the best fit for us. So I actually leveraged COVID to really hone in on our niche and make sure that we're serving a very specific market.
So each of you, like most of us, noticed a huge change in the way we did business that none of us had ever expected. So let's take a look at let's give you what you did. And if you would, let's go into some detail. Let's go backwards. Start with you, Carolyn, since you're there already. What changes did you make? What new strategies did you employ to overcome the problems?
So I think the very first thing I did is I need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I mean, this has been like that for the last 6 years, but I would say really push it. And the trend that we've been seeing is that everything obviously is going online. We do a lot of creative collateral for our clients. We prepare the webinars, we prepare the online events, things of this nature, right? This deck we're seeing here. But what we weren't doing is hosting our own events, creating our own webinars, and building our own brand. So this is something that I was forced to do reluctantly, but it's definitely paying off.
How did you do it differently than you had done it for your clients?
Well, we're not doing it differently. The difference is that we are doing it for Gallery Design Studio now. Before, we wouldn't do it for us, right? We would get paid to do it for other people, but now we're doing it to promote our brand as well. So
you kind of took your own advice, the advice that you gave to clients, you took it yourself.
Exactly.
It really works. Isn't that good? Dominique, tell us, what did you do? What's new strategy? How did you employ to overcome your problems?
The first thing I did was reaching out to different people. So I have a SCORE mentor who I love, and her help was invaluable to me, if for nothing else than just calming me down, and saying, I can remember being on a walk with her actually. And I was so down and I was like, I don't know, if I don't start making money soon, I think I'm just going to need to get a job as a teacher again, because I used to be a school teacher. And she said, you know, give it a little more time. You're doing everything right. So some of the things that I did were a lot of networking. I joined a women's only networking group because in my business, 9 times out of 10, when I get a call, it's from the mom, not the dad, for tutoring. So I started networking with women's groups, which was great. And at the same time, I also began kind of taking little courses that this group was offering on different types of skills, especially social media. And rather than trying to sort of do it all, which I had been doing, you know, posting 3 times a week on 3 channels, I looked at my target client, which is moms between really the ages of 35 and 55 or 60. And I said, where are most of those people? They're really not on Instagram when it comes to their kids. They're mainly on Facebook. And I really just kind of, you know, I always had a newsletter, but I stopped trying to make myself crazy by being on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and just targeted Facebook. And I feel like that did pay off, because I give talks also at libraries, and I kind of switched them from in-person to webinars in April, pretty early actually in April. And I would then repost those to Facebook. And so slowly people just began to find out who's Dr. P, and you know, find out about me.
I like hearing things like that, especially a SCORE mentor. And I know you're a SCORE mentor and she's terrific.
Yes.
Alexandra, tell us what changes you made, what strategies came into play that gave you an opportunity to turn things around.
So I always had a pretty solid social media presence and platform, because I did start first online. So for the first 2 years of my business, I was solely a website. And I actually was a kindergarten teacher for 10 years. So Pretty Pink Rooster was my side business. And I really formed a strong group and network on my social media. And that's really how I built my business and how I got the word out. So when I said before, you know, I pivoted from 24 hours of being brick and mortar and online straight back to my roots, I went back to my roots of just being on that social platform and just being virtual. So what I did, I had mentioned before that every day at 10:30, on my Facebook and my Instagram channels, I do Pretty Pink Rooster TV, and they're all live videos, which gives me the ability to connect to my customers wherever they are. You know, I have people who shop with me in California, and I have people who shop with me in Minnesota, and then I have all of my New Jersey people that shop with me. So that really took the in-person that was gone and kind of substituted that for me. So I was virtually shopping for my people in my neighborhood and all of my customers who would come to me in store. So I really fell back on that social media platform for that really assistance. It was a virtual assistance. And it's a great way to interact with your client base, whether they are, you know, local or whether they're out of state. So that was a huge component. I grew significantly because of that. And it's great because I would get emails, I would get direct messages. When we were allowed to open again, I would have people come in and say to me, you know what, Alexandra, your video really helped me move forward, and it gave me hope. And I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I was there just in the trenches, just trying to survive. And little did I know that that was really helping people. And I just think that that was so significant for me in so many different ways. So not only did I really steady up and beef up my social content, my videos would traditionally run 10 minutes. But during the quarantine and during the lockdown, really, I had videos going, I was going live for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. People would tune in. I would have, you know, a ton of people watching live, and then the kickbacks and the replay watches. Some of my videos were over 2,000 views. So it was just a really great way to connect. I also have a mailing list that I would pump out just info because you know what, during that whole time, birthdays didn't stop, anniversaries didn't stop, graduations didn't stop, Mother's Day didn't stop. So I really wanted to be there for my clients in any way that I could and take that burden off of them, because it was really sometimes the only normalcy that people felt, you know, giving those gifts. And I was out delivering. My sisters were out delivering, helping me, and we were shipping. And that's really what saved me, was my online business and my social platform and my social presence. That was a huge, huge component for me.
I think what I heard you saying is the same that was true in the days before social media. Staying in touch with your customer is essential.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so true. Just a different way, you know. And also another thing that really helped me, I already had the basis of that virtual shop and the virtual reality of FaceTiming my customers and having that shopping experience with them. So with that, I did really grow significantly with my personal shopping scheduling. So we would do that virtually. We did that all through the holiday season. I had people Zoom in with me and we would shop in the store. So I would take, you know, them around the boutique and I would show them some great gift ideas. And I'm booked for the rest of the month and for the rest of February for appointments, and it's virtual appointments. And that is another really great way to tap into, you know, helping and serving your customers in a virtual way, because there are so many people that still don't want to go out or are immune compromised or can't get out, and they want to kind of feel that normalcy. So that is the stuff that really helped me. And actually during quarantine, when we were allowed to open up again in June, I actually expanded and took the space next door to me. So I opened my business. So now I'm over 3,500 square feet of boutique store. And so I'm growing, and it's just a really great experience. And COVID for me was the ultimate teacher. It taught me how to be uncomfortable and really be okay being uncomfortable. And I've learned that when I am most uncomfortable, some of the most beautiful things happen, because I let go and I surrender and I just am ready to do whatever comes my way.
It's very motivating. Kendra, do we have any questions? Let's take a break and answer some questions.
Yes, we have a question for Caroline from Danette. Was there a change in your marketing budget before and after COVID?
Yeah, so Danette, I actually replied on the chat. I made sure to keep the budget, if not increase it, because it's so critical. What I did have to do is lower my expenses. So unfortunately, I did have to lay off, and that did help me continue the marketing budget.
Thank you. This is a question for each of you. Do you recommend any networking groups? You all talked about networking and the importance of connection. Dominique.
Sure. The networking group that I was a part of is called Pepper Lane, and it's based in New England. But once they had a small online presence before COVID, but once COVID happened, obviously it's all online. And the thing that I really like about that group is, again, it's all women, and I do think that there's just a different feeling when it's all women. And it's very educational. So they have, especially if you're sort of under maybe 3 years in business. There's a lot of courses you can get involved with. And actually, I forgot to mention that another thing I did in the beginning of COVID was I got an accountability buddy through that networking group. And we would meet via Zoom once a week and share our goals for the coming week together. And I think Pepperlane is just, I'll throw the website into the chat.
Thank you. How about you, Caroline?
Yeah, I know everybody's mentioned it already, but I am a huge fan of having a mentor. I think my personal experience is being more targeted. I'm not so much the networking kind of gal. I'll be very specific as to who I want to speak to. So obviously I have a school mentor, Mary, she's awesome. I also have paid mentors because I like the diversity in opinion. I have male and female, domestic and international, just because I like the difference in perspective. Obviously the common thread is that they're either in marketing, sales, all the things that you know are related to me. I think the one thing I would point out though is, well, it's two things actually. There's a few programs. I think Goldman Sachs has a program. I think there's a minimum threshold of revenue you need to be making, but that's something that might be interesting for some of the folks here. And then I think there's one specifically for women. I think it's called Tory Burch Foundation, and I think the threshold's a little bit lower. And these are great places where you can network with other folks, and you're part of a cohort, and they will literally mentor you every step of the way. And lastly, if there's someone that you really, really admire, reach out to them on LinkedIn and ask them to be your mentor. I've done that so many times, and I just can't express how amazing it is and how much faster you get to your goals.
Great tips, Carolyn. How about you, Alexandra?
So definitely there's a few different outlets that I have. First, NABO, an amazing group of women, and that is just such a great network. And I really am so grateful to be part of that amazing group of women. And also just reaching out to your chamber, your local chambers. And like Caroline said, LinkedIn is another great outlet. You know, you have so many people there. And if you connect with someone and really admire someone, to reach out. I've actually done that as well. And get yourself a coach. My coach is actually watching right now, and I'm so grateful for her. She's fabulous. And Sharon Richter is fantastic, focal point coaching. So she's really been awesome as well.
Would you explain NABO?
I'm sorry?
Would you explain NABO to everybody?
Yes, so I'm part of the NABO New York chapter, and it's a group of women who have so many different connections and are there for you to support you really for whatever your day brings. I had a marketing crisis, and I knew that I could hop on NABO's group and on their Facebook and just kind of typed out, I was looking for a new agency. And within seconds, I had so many different referrals from women. And it's really important to have that and give yourself that gift, because, you know, they're all there to help you, which is really, really great. I didn't have that during COVID. It was really after quarantine that I was introduced to Sharon and introduced to NABO. And I'm so grateful for having that now. And I kind of wish I had that during quarantine and during the COVID, because, you know, it's just it's a great group.
Okay, great. Kendra, any more questions?
Thanks so much. I'm just going to encourage people to submit their questions via the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom window, but we don't have any questions at this time, Sue, so I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. 2021 is a new year. Obviously, 2020 is behind us, and you guys have really come up. What new plans are you making in 2021, given the fact that hopefully the vaccine will be around, hopefully things will get better as the summer weather comes in? What new plans are you thinking of implementing in 2021? So start with Dominique.
Sure. So one thing that COVID did for my business was expand its geographic reach overseas. Once tutoring was no longer the tutor sitting right next to the child, it didn't really matter whether the tutor was in, whether the student was in New York or South Africa or the UK or Brussels, where I do have students. So I love working with international students. So one thing that I am going to work on is reaching out to American agencies and clubs abroad in order to give some of my webinars. I give a lot of webinars through public libraries, and I will try to do that. Another thing that I did to also, I'm a big believer in sort of covering a lot of bases, because if COVID taught me anything, it's that if one thing doesn't work, if you have a lot of different irons in the fire, something's going to work out. And so because of COVID, I relocated out of New York City to Long Island. And so rather than just relying on my relationships with libraries in Westchester County, where I had been giving lots of webinars and where many times it's the first time a parent will see me. And if they see me over a couple of years, I've gotten several clients who have seen me at these in-person talks. This past week, I've been reaching out to a lot of Long Island libraries because, eventually COVID will end. And if I'm living here, I want to be able to be in a position where I can start going to in-person talks at libraries close to me as well. So sort of, I think, planning for the post-COVID world, as well as kind of continuing what's worked really well with technology for me is my plan for 2020.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Carolyn, how about you? Post-COVID plans.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat what Dominic is saying. It's I think the key factor for survival is diversification. With clients, you don't want to rely on one client, and you don't want to rely on one particular service. So in our case, we do a lot of done for you services, right? We'll design your website, we'll design your decks, we'll do the writing, and that's great. And we absolutely love our clients and we want to continue doing that. But there's another component. We need to start branching out in case, COVID does happen again. Maybe folks don't have that investment for marketing like we've experienced, and they want to be trained. So that's why we're also going live, like events like this, and starting to host our own training webinars on the different things that we specialize in.
So COVID pushed you to a new direction, which is working.
Correct.
Good to hear. Alexandra, what's going to be new in 2021?
So 2021, I am focusing on my brand, the Pretty Pink Rooster, and creating all of my own jewelry. And we're going to put that into the boutique and online. We're going to dabble into our own clothing. We've already started that. We've already started the jewelry production, and really continuing offering innovative services for my clients.
Sounds like you guys are pushing forward. Can you describe a client who you helped, who came to you with their own trouble as a result of COVID, and how you helped that client in a way that made you very proud of what you do? Carolyn.
Yeah, I think obviously I'm a business owner, so we want to make money. This is true. But I think before that, you want to be a good human being. And essentially, we want to provide a service that is going to help our clients. So if potentially one of our higher plans is not going to make sense for them, we will lower the plan and give them exactly what they need at that time in terms of services. And then, down the line, we can scale up. But we really don't want to force anybody to be in a position, especially financial position, that's going to be uncomfortable for them.
And is there one client that you did this for that just made you feel really good? I'm
Oh,
proud.
absolutely. And now this client is growing and he's going to increase our, the monthly plan they have with us. So if you're a good person, it will pay off at some point.
It's good to feel proud. Dominique?
Sure. Yeah, so sometimes students can't pay, but they maybe have seen me at a library workshop, and actually because of that, I'll admit I got so busy with paying clients in the fall, but once the dust kind of settled in December, because a lot of students apply for college in November on November 1. I'm planning this year to do a like sort of a Crimson Coaching Scholarship program for 11th graders and for a 12th grader, where I'll be hosting classes. I normally do all of my tutoring one-on-one, but I'd like to do classes for very small, like four students at a time for the SAT, preparing for the SAT, and then one student to do college counseling with that student. So I am in the throes of planning that right now.
And it's going to sounds to me like it's going to make you feel really proud about that.
It will, yeah, because this business that I'm in often, things like Operation Varsity Blues with Felicity Huffman and McLaughlin, I forget her name, Lori Loughlin, got, it gets the view that this service is only for the very wealthy, but I'm a public school teacher at heart, and I went through public schools, and I sort of wish that I had someone like me when I was younger. So I'd like to pay it forward.
That's great. Alexandra?
So I actually had a client of mine. She's a bride. I do bridal styling, and part of our services for any styling, it's complimentary. And this woman, she did her wedding plans. Everything was set. She was supposed to get married in March, and she had to cancel her wedding 3 different times. And my heart just broke for her. I mean, I was with her when she was engaged, and we did the whole jewelry for herself and her mother and her whole bridal party. She had 10 bridesmaids, and it was absolutely beautiful. And then COVID hit. She had to redo the date. Her wedding gown was lost twice, and it was just like this poor woman had the worst luck throughout this whole situation, which was supposed to be the most beautiful and exciting time. And she had called me crying and said, "Oh my gosh, like my wedding gown is missing. I need a whole new dress. Everything that I thought was going to be is different. And now I need all new jewelry." So I said, "Okay, don't worry. We're going to close the store for you early. You're going to come in with your mom, and we're going to curate an entirely new look for your new wedding." Now, she was only allowed 1 bridesmaid, so only one of her sisters was able to stand next to her for the wedding. And like I said, closed the store and gave her 45 minutes to just feel like Cinderella wrapped in one, because it was exclusively for her. I was helping her and her mom, and we got everything all situated, and she left so grateful. And that made me feel really happy, because this poor woman, she just wanted to get married, and everything was going wrong. So if I could have helped her in a little way, it was great. So it was such a special day, and I'm really happy that happened.
And you feel very proud, and rightly so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
By the way, everybody, I want you to know that these questions I'm asking them now are not questions that they're even knew were coming. With fewer people, 1 panelist less, we have less time. So I'm very impressed that they came up with some great answers. So thank you, ladies. There's a few more to come, and I'm sure you'll do as well on those as you have on the past. Originally, we had 2 people who had a product, meaning like the dress store and the ice cream shop, which is not here, and 2 had a service. I'm wondering if you think it's easier to pivot, to change, if you have a product or a service. So let's start with Dominique. Do you think it's easier to make that change if you have a product or a service?
I think it depends upon what kind of service. I know in my business, which is all about talking basically and listening, it was really easy to make the change. But I think if you're a service provider, like say a massage therapist, that's probably really difficult, right? But in general, I think many service industries are easier to pivot. I don't know how the other ladies think.
I think we have, that's what I'm saying, in the audience, I'm sure there are people who have a product and some people who have services. So just wondering which each of you. Okay, Alexandra, you've got a product. What would you say?
You know, I think that a product is definitely, I feel could be definitely harder because you have to find a way to show that product. And that's why social media came in huge for me. I was able to basically build my own QVC, Pretty Pink Rooster TV, you know, so I was modeling, I had myself modeling, I had my sister modeling, you know, so I really needed to get innovative. So I think a product is a little bit harder to kind of push in a different direction.
Good point. Carolyn.
Yeah, I think I agree with both Dominic and Alexandra. I think it depends on the product. It depends on the service. Obviously, when I think product, I think inventory. There's a lot of, you know, day-to-day management, which is probably a lot more intense than, you know, a service business. The one thing I would say for the service business, the main challenge is, you know, there are a lot of service businesses and a lot of them are very similar. So the differentiation part is key. With a product, sometimes I feel like it's easier to just say, hey, look how awesome this is. But with a service, there's a little bit more pitching involved.
Please keep those questions coming because I'm sure that these people have a lot more to tell you. If you just ask them the questions and be helpful to you. Here's a question again, which they're not necessarily prepared for. Have any of you or all of you or each of you applied for a PPP loan or an EIDL loan? And if so, could you describe the process and the result? And are you ready to do it again? So let's start. Carolyn, you're already up.
Yes, I applied several times, but I was not eligible because I'm not a citizen. So that's something I discovered.
Ah, see, I didn't know that. Okay, so we'll go right on to Dominique.
I would have liked to apply, but I couldn't. I'm a citizen, but because the only employee of my company is myself, and you needed to have, I think, 3 or more, I wasn't able to. And one other thing I just wanted to mention to Sue, the one question that we did prepare for that I'd love to answer, you asked us about our philosophy. So maybe later you can get to that.
I have that on my list. Exactly. And Alexandra, how about you?
I did apply for the PPP and I did get the PPP. I have 1 employee other than myself, so it's 2 employees and more. And it was definitely a process that was in the way beginning before things were laid out really clearly. And I did get the PPP.
And will you be applying for the next round?
No.
Is there a reason why not?
I don't need it right now. So I'm going to just let that be for people who need to get it, because I know it was really crazy during the beginning and I went with a smaller bank. My bank could not help me. And I just saw and really heard so many stories about how many people do need it. And I don't need it right now. So that served its purpose for me. So now it's time for somebody else to be able to have it.
Okay, just for the audience, the new PPP that's come out, even if you got the first round, you're eligible for the second round. and the EIDL is also still available. So if you need the money, it's there. Take advantage of it. It'll help your business. Okay, let's go back to the question that Dominique wanted, which is, what is your philosophy for success? So since that's Dominique's question, why don't you start by answering it?
Well, I just figured since we had prepared for that one, I would bring it up. We also, I think all of us gave 3 tips, and this was my last one because I think it's really important. And it might go a little bit in sort of a different direction than what Maya talked about in her keynote, and I thought that was hers was great advice. But I'm definitely always the kind of person who I've been like the little engine that could throughout my whole life, right? I just kept on working, kept on working, kept on working. So I love and I'm a historian by training. So I love the Winston Churchill speech, never surrender. But I feel like that also needs to be modified with Anna and Elsa's advice of let it go. That, sometimes I think even if sometimes people, when they've put so much effort in going in one direction, are very reluctant to back up and go a different direction because they said, well, look at how much time and energy I spent doing it this way. But I think for me, if there's any reason why, I've had any sort of success in life, let alone just business, it's been because although I'm a hard worker and I'll keep working, I don't think I'm very rigid. And so I'm willing to try different things. And I think that is just being really flexible in this environment is key, because if one thing does, and something my SCORE mentor said to me too really resonates. And she said, I was thinking about, oh, what will I do this year? And about something I forget. And I said, well, I did it this way last year. And she said, but you know what worked last year might not work this year. And so I think to keep that in mind always, not just for pandemic times, but forever, is that what worked in the past may not work in the future. So just keep trying something new.
I like that philosophy for success. How about you, Alexandra? What would you say would be your philosophy for success?
My philosophy for success is always be a student. You have to be willing to always learn and always grow, because like Dominique said, things change and they are out of your control, and you have to learn how to pivot and how to be flexible, and what worked, and what has worked in the past probably won't work now, so just like how this just all laid out. So be flexible and always be willing to be a student.
Carolyn.
Yes, I agree with Dominic. You need to be very agile, and with Alexandra, always have a learning mindset, and it keeps you sharp. But I think the one thing I would highlight is focus. Don't try and spread yourself too thin. Just laser focus. If you see that it's not going your way, or you have a hunch it's not working out, it's okay to change your mind. But I would say just do less than try to do too much at the same time.
It's kind of like what Maya said, one bite at a time, not the whole pizza, just one bite at a time, which makes a great deal of sense. I know myself, I get very frustrated and overwhelmed some things when I look at a pile of stuff that I have to do. And I have to force myself to say, just the top piece of paper, you'll get to the rest later, one bite at a time. We have questions?
Yes, we do. From Julianne. I think you all touched on this a little bit, but how did you and do you continue to navigate the story of who you are as a businesswoman as you face sharp drop-offs and when you work to build back up while pivoting? And we'll go to Dominique first.
sorry, I'm just reading the question. I'm a visual learner because I didn't quite get it. How did and do you continue to navigate the story of who you are as a businesswoman as you face sharp drop-offs? Well, I think for me, the key is, I mean, look, I love being a businesswoman and making money, right? I mean, no one it becomes a businesswoman to just not make any money. But I think the key is, at least for me, is also having a sort of a whole life outside of just my identity as a business owner. So for instance, I've always been a teacher. I actually consider myself a teacher really more than a business owner. So I still am an adjunct professor at Bronx Community College. And you know, I have a family who I'm close to. I love being an aunt and getting to do fun things. So I think, you know, having close personal relationships during the drop off really helped me from not getting super depressed. I'll be frank, and looking at, you know, others. So for instance, one of my nieces, when we went into lockdown and she had to stay home, I noticed she was only 8 years old, and I noticed she started going into a real depression. And so we kind of all focused our attention on her. So I think, like any, you know, having a variety of things outside the business and not putting my identity totally in that is what helped me during the hard time.
Great answer. Great. The other, Carolyn?
I'm not sure I understand the question 100%.
Kendra, would you read it again?
Sure. So how do you navigate the story of who you are as a businesswoman as you face sharp drop-offs and work to building back?
I mean, I love what I do. So my life is the business. Obviously, I have a life outside the business. I hope I'm answering your question. But yeah, nothing has changed. That COVID didn't change my purpose. I think that's what Maya was saying. My why is rock solid, and that's my North Star, you know. So yeah, I would say it's about harmony and having your why really clear.
And Alexandra?
It goes back to the why, and really having, like Caroline said, your why is why you started your business, and you have to have that, and don't ever pivot from that, because that's why you're here. And throughout COVID, during the ups and downs, we were all crazy and scared, and me holding on to my why is what got me through that, and knowing that I have a purpose here, and my purpose is to help women in any way that I can. So having that why and really having the why clear in your head is really important.
Great.
We have another question. How did you push through to achieve your goals? Do you have any tips you can share? And let's go to Dominique.
Fear of not paying my mortgage is an awesome motivator. You know, I mean, I'll be honest. So you know, I'm single, right? And I can't rely on anyone else. You know, and you know, that is partially what kept me going. But the other thing is, like Alexandra and Caroline said, you know, I love doing what I'm doing, and I also love doing what I'm doing a lot more than I loved being a full-time teacher. And I didn't want to kind of have to go back to that. I knew that I could always fall back on that, but I really didn't want to. And so I wanted to just kind of keep on pushing. But I think what's also really helpful, and you know, Maya talked a little bit about this in her keynote about, you know, getting out of debt. I'm a person who I'm very financially conservative, and listen to Susie Orman, and I've got 6 to 9 months of living expenses in the bank. And that to me is also really key when you, especially if you're sort of a solopreneur and maybe, you know, you don't have a ton of money coming in. I saw there was another question in the chat about money. You know, having that cushion to fall back on is so important, because there's going to be, in the beginning of your business, you're not going to have most likely a lot of money coming in. And then there's times of just normal drought, I think, in the beginning of a business, or like COVID. So knowing that I wasn't going to be homeless, I mean, my mortgage was pushing me, but I wasn't paralyzed by fear because I knew I had a cushion.
Thanks. Let's go to Carolyn. How do you push through to achieve your goals?
So I do several things. Like, what really helps me, because I'm I'm not multitasker. I really like to focus on one thing. I'll set that one big goal, which I'm really, really passionate about, and I'll work backwards, and then I'll just break it up into bits. Again, what Maya was saying. And also, I saw somebody left a comment, I think Amy. I also have a lot of hobbies. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that everything that I do is very creative. So that really does, you know, with the hands, that really does help me gain some distance and then reevaluate if these goals are reasonable, doable, and I can get them done how I originally planned.
Thanks. And Alexandra?
So definitely working with my coach and having an accountability partner, and to just really keep pushing through those goals and holding me accountable for getting those goals done. And I'm a big journal person. I love to journal and I love to make lists. So those things are all great components for me that have pushed me to get through those goals, and also being really clear on your goals and setting up a very clear action plan and checking in.
Thanks so much. We're about to, I think we can take one last question. Do you think COVID is an optimal time to start or grow your business if you don't have much existing clientele? And let's start with Carolyn.
What's the business?
They didn't say the business.
I think, again, it goes back to the why. If you do your market research, I think that the key thing that, you know, we always tell our clients is, even though you don't have a big market, you have to start somewhere. That's all right. But know your market well, talk to them, ask them questions. What are their frustrations? What are their struggles? And how are you going to show them the better day, right? What is your value? And I think if you can convey that, you're golden, COVID or no COVID.
Thanks. Alexandra?
So I think that there's never the right time for anything, and COVID's here and COVID is not going away right this very second. So if you have a clear understanding and a clear why as to why you want to start your business, you know, I always say go for it. Clarity is power, and really have a list of what you want to accomplish and how you want to get there, and work really hard at it. And I think that it shouldn't be something that's going to deter you. And if your why is solid enough, you will be able to move forward and start up.
Thanks. How about you, Dominique? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great time. I mean, you know, so many people have actually done really well, but I think, you know, Caroline's first question, what's the business, right, is sort of key. So it might not be the best time to say start a massage therapy business, right? So I do think, you know, doing some research, and again, you know, having something on the side. You know, the other person asked about, you know, what did you do when you first started your business, right? I had a part-time job as a professor. So I think having something a little bit while you grow your business is probably a smart thing, rather than just like jumping off a cliff. So that'd be my advice.
Thanks so much to all of you for sharing your experiences and your hard-earned wisdom. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Mary Tan. Mary. Okay, I'll share the few final thoughts.
I tell you what, we got
Oh, sure.
time, Kendra, to ask the panelists one last question?
Sure.
The purpose of this conference is achieving goals in uncertain times. Can you just give like one sentence to everybody in the audience that's going to help them to achieve their goals in uncertain times? So start with Alexandra. How can people in the audience achieve their goals in uncertain times?
Like I said before, clarity is power. Get clear on your goals, set your action plan, and then hold yourself accountable for them.
Perfect. I love it. Let's write it down and keep it. Dominique.
Yeah, I would double down on also what I said before. So never surrender plus let it go equals success.
Love it. Carolyn.
Yeah, I think clarity, know what you want to achieve, map it out, and then get help or learn a new skill to get there.
Kendra, you go ahead.
Thank you so much. So just a few final thoughts, but I'm just going to tell you, I'm putting in chat the URL to register for our workshops that we're featuring tomorrow. So if you are not already signed up for a workshop, we encourage you to join us to just continue this learning. So setting goals is easy, right? Achieving them is really challenging. So make sure that you share your goals out. I think so many of you talked about accountability, having accountability partners. I think we have this reinforced again and again, clarity of purpose. And I heard a lot of people use that exact word, having a clarity of purpose and having that context, excuse me. Of course, stay open and be nimble, right? Stay agile. Again, we also heard about micro action steps. You're not going to eat that whole pizza. You're going to start just taking a bite at a time. And then this is something I think we all need to remember. Mistakes are a great opportunity to learn. So in that respect, they're not really mistakes, right? They're learning points and that we grow from. So with that, Mary Tan, next. So yes, sign up for the workshops tomorrow. I put that link in the chat. We will be featuring the topics you see: anatomy of getting what you want, setting goals for growth, vision into reality, 7 steps to achieve that goal. Mary.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have, as Maya had said earlier, if you haven't already signed up for these workshops, take another look and do sign up. Kendra just said she put the link in your chat because we were very careful about the topics we selected. Each one speaks a little bit to the issues we touched on today. Like, for instance, the first workshop, Anatomy of Getting What You Want, it talks about how habits are hardwired in your brain. And what she recommends is taking that first little bite, that micro bite, because otherwise you can be overwhelmed. So rather than saying, why aren't I doing this right? Why isn't this habit helping me? She says, create new habits. Tanya Alvarez will give you frameworks for how you identify goals and stick with them and track them and make them happen. And Sharon, it has a whole list of ideas for you about how you can take, just your vision. How do you actually make them happen and turn them into reality? Then Trisha Tate talks about getting your house in financial order. And, what earlier Dominique talked about, having planning to have a cushion. That takes a lot of the panic out of what you're doing. And remember what, Maya also said, get rid of the debt, but you can't get rid of it all at once. Figure out how you can chip away at it. And a lot of financial management is about attacking it in bits. And Tricia will be talking about that. And then finally, Juliana Marilana will be talking about how do you clone yourself? Because we all have too much to do. How do you chunk it out and figure out what do you really have to do by yourself? And also, what can you offload and outsource either to somebody else or even using technology? And part of cloning yourself is getting the partners, the accountability partners that you're talking about, because that's a way of having a mini me who can remind you what is it that you need to do and how do you want to achieve them and by when. And so, as a closing, remember to sign up for the NYWIB Business Directory. Some of you already saw, I've seen some notes. People are doing that, creating profiles on the directory. Please do that because, you know, when I read the chat and saw how many businesses out there, if you want more business and you need to be found, and this is a way you can do that for free. Get yourself listed on the business directory. And if you want to, you can even buy a few promotional weeks so you can be featured on the homepage. You'll be getting a survey later on that we're going to ask you to fill out to give us a better idea of, you know, what are we doing right? What can we do doing better? And as a special little incentive, we've created a PDF of the best tips from all the speakers that you've seen today. And so you'll be able to take advantage of that. And remember, you know, a number of people talked about mentoring, and Kendra's talked about it. Go to newyorkcity.score.org. You know, when you click Find Me a New York City Mentor, it shows you the names of over 70 mentors with different backgrounds that you can, you know, email directly and say, hey, this is my challenge. Can you help me? And it's free, so you really have nothing to lose. And of course, for even more resources, go to We NYC, as Florencia pointed out, and they've got a lot of very robust programs for you to take advantage of. So with that, we've reached the end of the day. Thank you, and hopefully see you tomorrow. And I hope you got as much out of this this webinar as we did. And a last word, thank you all for attending, and thank you, Sue and Alexandra and Dominique and Caroline for, you know, sharing your ideas and your wisdom and your tips. Thank you very much.